Troy endured 10 years of siege, yet no one could take it. Swords were not enough. Blood was not enough. Even heroes failed. Then the enemy left a gift. Troy rejoiced. The gates were opened, and that night the city screamed as it burned. Troy did not die by the sword. It died by the lie it believed. Coming up, how a city destroyed itself, how a wooden horse became deadlier than 1,000 swords, and how, for the first time in history, victory was won through deception. Because Troy did not fall in battle, it fell by the lie it believed. The Trojan War did not begin with armies, it began with pride. When Paris, Prince of Troy, took Helen from Sparta, he did not steal just a woman. He trampled the honor of the entire Greek world. Greek kings united under Agamemnon. Their goal was simple: to destroy Troy. But Troy was no ordinary city. Its walls were strong, its position was strategic, its allies were powerful. Years passed, attacks came, but there was no victory. 10 years, blood, death, and Troy still stood. This war did more than destroy cities. It created legends. Heroes whose names would echo through centuries were forged before the walls of Troy. One of them was Achilles, the invincible warrior. On the battlefield, his name inspired fear. To the Greeks, he was not just a soldier, but a force of fate itself. Opposing him stood Hector, the last fortress of Troy. He was more than a commander. He was the city's shield, the final barrier between Troy and destruction. When these two met, the clash was not merely for victory, it was for glory, honor, and immortality. The day Hector fell, Troy mourned, for the city had lost its heart. The day Achilles died, the Greeks were shaken. They realized that even the greatest hero could not escape death. Yet the war did not end. The heroes were gone. Their names were carved into history. But Troy still stood, and the Greeks finally understood. This city could not be taken by force. It was at this moment of complete deadlock that one man stepped forward. His name was Odysseus. He was not the strongest warrior. He was not the bravest on the battlefield. His sword was not the sharpest, nor was his shield the heaviest. But Odysseus possessed something far more dangerous: his mind. He looked at the war from a distance. 10 years of bloodshed, 10 years of failed assaults, 10 years of dead heroes and broken armies, and he saw a truth the others refused to accept. Troy could not be defeated by force. The walls still stood, the city still resisted, and the Greek army was slowly collapsing under exhaustion. The greatest warriors were gone. Hope was fading. Victory felt impossible. Then Odysseus asked a question, a quiet question, a terrifying one. What if Troy is not destroyed by us, but destroys itself? Silence followed, because this was not a battle plan. This was deception. Odysseus understood something crucial. While walls can resist armies, the human mind can be manipulated. The plan was extremely dangerous. One mistake, and the hidden soldiers would be slaughtered. One moment of suspicion, and everything would fail. But there was no alternative, so the decision was made. The Greeks would pretend to retreat. They would burn their camps. Their ships would disappear beyond the horizon. And before the gates of Troy, they would leave behind only one object, not an army, not a weapon, a gift. A gift designed not to attack Troy's walls, but to enter them. And once inside, this gift would be deadlier than thousands of swords. Greek craftsmen built a massive wooden horse. This was not ordinary construction. It was not the making of a weapon. It was the creation of psychological warfare. The size of the horse was carefully chosen, large enough to inspire awe, large enough to raise questions, but not enough to stop it from being moved. This was no accident. To both Greeks and Trojans, the horse was a sacred symbol. It represented strength, victory, the favor of the gods. That is why the horse had to inspire respect, not suspicion. For days, perhaps weeks, the craftsmen worked in silence. Every plank was chosen with care, every joint reinforced, every detail designed with purpose, because this horse would carry death inside it. Hidden within the hollow body of the horse were elite Greek soldiers. These were not ordinary warriors. They were trained for silence, for darkness, for sacrifice. They knew the truth. One sound meant discovery. One mistake meant death by fire. The doors were sealed. The silence began. Then the Greeks prepared the final illusion. Their camps were burned, tents turned to ash, weapons were abandoned. It had to look like retreat, like defeat. The ships sailed away and vanished beyond the horizon. The Greek army was gone. Morning came. Troy was silent. For the first time in 10 years, there were no battle cries, no clashing steel, no approaching enemy. The walls saw no attackers. The sea held no ships. There was only one thing, standing quietly before the city, a massive wooden horse. It did not attack. It did not speak. It simply waited. The people of Troy approached. They stared. They touched it, unaware that they were witnessing the most deadly mistake in history. Because this horse did not carry swords. It carried victory. The people of Troy gathered before the gates, all eyes fixed on the wooden horse. Some were suspicious. And then the priest Laocoon stepped forward. His voice was calm, but his warning was deadly. Beware of Greeks bearing gifts. He did not stop at words. He hurled his spear. The metal struck the wood, but no one listened, because joy had drowned out fear. 10 years of terror, 10 years of war, 10 years of death. Now there was only one word left: victory. The horse was pulled into the city. The gates were closed. Troy breathed in relief. Troy believed it had won. But in truth, that was the moment it lost everything. When night fell over Troy, no one expected danger. After 10 years of war, the city slept peacefully for the first time. Children rested without fear. Guards lowered their vigilance. Behind the great walls, silence ruled. But that silence was a lie, because Troy was no longer under siege. The enemy was not outside the walls. The enemy was already inside the city. Deep within the hollow body of the wooden horse, Greek soldiers waited in total darkness. Hours passed, muscles cramped, breath was held. No one moved. One sound meant death. One mistake meant burning alive. Then, the moment came. The horse opened. Like shadows, the soldiers descended into the sleeping city. Guards were killed before they could speak. The gates were opened from within. At the same time, the Greek fleet hiding at sea returned under cover of darkness. Troy did not fall in battle. It was taken from the inside. Fire rose into the night sky. Screams tore through the streets. People ran, but there was nowhere to escape. A war that had lasted 10 years ended in a single night. Troy was not defeated by strength. It was not broken by force. Troy was destroyed by the trust it placed in a lie. And history learned a brutal truth. Sometimes the deadliest attack does not arrive with noise and steel, but with silence. Troy did not fall by the sword. Its walls were not breached. Its armies were not defeated. Troy opened its own gates. A city that endured for 10 years was destroyed in a single night, because it failed to recognize its greatest danger, as an enemy. Today, the Trojan Horse is not just a legend, it is a warning, because the deadliest attacks are not always made with steel. Sometimes they arrive in silence,